Ever wondered if using only 10% of your brain is a fact or a mere myth? This is but one of the numerous misconceptions that surround our incredible brain. It's a marvel of nature, a complex organ that still holds many secrets. Yet, within the vast ocean of knowledge about the human brain, there are islands of myths that have been perpetuated over time. We've all heard whispers of such tales. They're the type that claim we only use a small portion of our brain, or that brain damage is always permanent. Perhaps you've even heard that alcohol kills brain cells, or that you're stuck with the brain you were born with. These common beliefs, though widely accepted, are not universally supported by scientific evidence. So, let's dive into the world of brain health and explore these myths. Are they fact or fiction? Scientifically proven, or just plain old wives' tales? Join us today as we debunk the top 10 myths about brain health. Myth number 1. We only use 10% of our brain. This tall tale has been floating around for over a century, often ascribed to Albert Einstein. It's a notion that suggests humans have untapped potential locked away in the recesses of our brains. Sounds intriguing, doesn't it? But here's the truth. Scientific research and neuroimaging technologies have shown that we use virtually all parts of our brain. Not all at once, of course, but throughout the day, every region has its moment in the spotlight. This doesn't mean we're firing on all cylinders all the time. Rather, different tasks and activities require different areas of the brain. It's a symphony of neural activity, not a solo performance. So while it's a captivating idea that we might have a wealth of untapped cerebral power, it's far from the truth. In reality, every part of the brain has a known function. Myth number 2. Brain damage is always permanent. This myth has been around for quite some time, and it's understandable why. The brain is a complex organ, and damage to it can indeed have serious implications. However, the idea that all brain damage is irreversible oversimplifies the brain's remarkable capacity for adaptability and resilience. This is where the magic of neuroplasticity comes into play. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life. This means that to some extent, the brain can compensate for damage by rerouting neural pathways or recruiting other areas to take over the function of the damaged parts. While the extent of recovery can vary greatly depending on the severity and location of the damage, numerous scientific studies have shown that the brain can, in fact, heal itself, given time and the right rehabilitation strategies. So it's a myth that all brain damage is permanent. Myth number 3. Alcohol kills brain cells. This belief has been floating around for quite some time. But where did it originate? It can be traced back to the Prohibition era in the United States, when temperance activists promoted this idea to support their cause. Now let's debunk this myth with science. Research shows that moderate alcohol consumption doesn't kill brain cells. In fact, our brains are quite resilient. They can tolerate a certain amount of alcohol without experiencing cell death. However, before you raise your glass, it's crucial to remember that while alcohol may not kill brain cells, excessive consumption can lead to serious complications. Chronic alcohol abuse can cause brain damage, particularly in areas involved in decision-making and impulse control. Moreover, alcohol can interfere with the growth of new brain cells and disrupt the communication between them, which can impact cognitive function. Thus, alcohol doesn't kill brain cells, but excessive consumption can cause serious brain damage. Myth number 4. Human memory works like a video recorder. This myth probably originates from the comforting idea that our brain records our experiences with flawless precision, just like a video camera. However, the reality is quite different. According to scientific research, human memory is not a fixed and permanent record like a video. Instead, our memories are dynamic constructions of the brain that are constantly being rewritten and reinterpreted. Every time we remember something, our brain networks change in ways that can alter the later recall of the event. Thus, our memories are not static, but are molded by our beliefs, our knowledge, and even our mood at the time of recall. This means that two people can remember the same event very differently. Their recollections can be influenced by their individual perspectives, their emotions at the time, and the information they have received since the event. So, the human memory is not an exact recording of events, but an interpretation. Myth number 5. Left-brained people are logical, right-brained people are creative. This myth has its roots in the 19th century theory of cerebral lateralization. It was believed that individuals who are left brain dominant tend to be more analytical and methodical, while those who are right brain dominant are typically more artistic and creative. However, modern neuroscience has debunked this myth. Brain imaging technology has shown that both hemispheres of the brain are almost always engaged, regardless of the task at hand. While there are certain functions that are predominantly managed by one hemisphere, like language in the left hemisphere and spatial abilities in the right, the brain operates as a whole. Moreover, creativity and logic aren't solely confined to one hemisphere. They are complex processes that involve networks spread across the entire brain. Therefore, it's not about having a dominant side, but rather how well the two hemispheres communicate with each other. Thus, it's a myth that one hemisphere of the brain dominates over the other. Myth number 6, brain cells don't regenerate. This belief has been around for quite some time, stemming from early scientific studies on the brain. It was thought that once our brain cells die, they're gone for good, leading to the notion that we're destined to lose mental capacity as we age. But science has made some exciting discoveries since those early days. Research has uncovered a process called neurogenesis, which is the creation of new neurons, or brain cells. This process is most active during prenatal development, but it continues throughout our lives, primarily in two areas of the brain: the hippocampus, which is involved in learning and memory, and the olfactory bulb, related to our sense of smell. Modern imaging techniques have allowed scientists to see this process in action, providing concrete evidence that our brains are far more adaptable than we once thought. So, contrary to the myth, brain cells do regenerate. Myth number 7, bigger brains are smarter. This idea has been around for ages, likely originating from the belief that a larger physical size equates to increased capacity or ability. But as with many things, size isn't everything when it comes to brains. Scientific research has shown that factors like the connectivity between neurons and the balance of different types of brain tissue are more important for intelligence than sheer size. Consider this: the sperm whale has a brain 6 times larger than the human brain, yet it's not writing symphonies or building skyscrapers. Likewise, the tiny brain of a crow is packed with intelligence, allowing it to solve complex problems. Moreover, studies have shown that even among humans there is little correlation between brain size and IQ. So if you've been feeling inadequate about your brain size, don't. It's not about how big your brain is, but how well you use it. Hence, a bigger brain doesn't necessarily mean more intelligence. Myth number 8, you're stuck with the brain you're born with. This belief likely originated from the long-standing notion that once our developmental years are over, our brains become fixed and unchangeable, sort of like a computer hard drive. But let's debunk this right now with a beautiful thing called brain plasticity. Brain plasticity, or neuroplasticity, refers to the brain's amazing ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life. It allows the neurons in the brain to compensate for injury and disease, and to adjust their activities in response to new situations or changes in the environment. Over time, it was discovered that our brains can and do change at any age. We can learn new skills, adapt to new environments, and even recover from brain injuries. The brain's plasticity is what enables us to continue growing and changing throughout our lives. So, it's a myth that the brain can't change after childhood. Don't underestimate the power of your brain. It's far more adaptable than you may think. Myth number 9, multitasking is productive. This belief has its roots in our fast-paced multitasking society, where juggling several tasks at once is often seen as a sign of efficiency. But is this really the case? Science tells a different story. Research from Stanford University has found that multitasking can actually be less productive than doing a single task at a time. The study showed that people who are regularly bombarded with several streams of electronic information do not pay attention, control their memory, or switch from one job to another, as well as those who prefer to complete one task at a time. Furthermore, a study published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology found that shifting between tasks can cost as much as 40% of someone's productive time. So, instead of being a productivity booster, multitasking can lead to time lost, as the brain needs to switch gears each time it changes tasks. In reality, multitasking can reduce productivity and increase mistakes. And finally, myth number 10, we have 5 senses. This belief is as old as Aristotle himself, who was the first to categorize our senses into 5: sight, hearing, taste, smell, and touch. But modern science has a different take. Our senses extend far beyond the traditional 5. For example, we have proprioception, the sense of knowing where our body parts are in relation to each other without having to look. Ever closed your eyes and touched your nose? That's proprioception at work. Then there's thermoception, our ability to sense temperature, and nociception, the sense of pain. Equilibrioception helps us maintain our balance and orient ourselves in space, while our internal senses monitor things like blood pressure and carbon dioxide levels. Some even argue that hunger and thirst should be considered senses. In total, neurologists believe we have between 20 to 30 different senses. So it's a myth that humans only have 5 senses. In our journey today, we've debunked some of the most common myths about our brain. We've explored the truth behind the claim that we only use 10% of our brains and uncovered the fact that brain damage isn't always permanent. We've also dispelled the myth that alcohol kills brain cells and revealed that human memory doesn't function like a video recorder. We've dismantled the stereotype that left-brain people are logical and right-brain people are creative, and debunked the myth that brain cells don't regenerate. We've shown that bigger brains aren't necessarily smarter, and that we're not stuck with the brain we're born with. We've proven that multitasking isn't as productive as we think, and we've expanded our understanding of our senses beyond the traditional 5. In the realm of brain health, it's clear that many popular beliefs are not backed by science. Remember, when it comes to the brain, it's better to rely on science than myths.